Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
Alrighty, welcome ladies and gents. Got some special guests here tonight. So, starting off the show, we got Reels of Justice himself. He brings the hurt. And hopefully you don't bring the pain. It's Robb Maynard. How are you, sir?
Hey, how's it going? I'll try not to bring the hurt.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to be pain, so I'd rather you bring the hurt.
I'm sure a lot of people think these movies deserve it, so we'll see.
So we're just gonna do just overall film and TV history of the Transformers saga. Just both the many different cartoon continuities as well as live action continuity. So what is it just about before this was even acquired by Marvel? Back in the 80s that just made this and G.I. Joe just rank so highly with 80s buffs.
Well, I mean, it's the greatest toy commercial, right, that
Ever.
existed. It's a half-hour toy commercial. You see a character you like, and then you can go out and buy him and tell your own story too.
Mhm.
So, basically, it's just like a feedback loop, right? Like
Just like Thomas the Tank Engine.
yeah, they tell a great story with the character, and then you can buy the toy, tell your own stories, but you still have that backstory to go back to. It keeps growing week by week, and so you like your toy more and more. Yeah, like you said, G.I. Joe's another great example. Power Rangers did it really, really well too, I think.
Oh yeah,
Later
Power
in the
Rangers was
90s.
basically a bunch of action figures in the
Yep.
middle of a stunt segment, and then
Yep.
trying to loop a story around it loosely.
Yeah. Well, not to get too well, with Power Rangers, it's a Japanese show that they had to wrap Americans and English speakers around. And it was the same case in Japan too. It was a huge toy commercial. But yeah, with Transformers, I think they told one, it's great animation too. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
Transformers,
very
the
good
TV
animation.
show, is got good animation that people really enjoyed at that time. It's not like too expensive or anything, but you can go back and watch the Transformers cartoon now. I do, and
Still
the
good.
animation holds up. It's still good. So yeah, I think it just became largely successful with kids like that, and then those kids grew up and they kind of never really let it go.
For sure, and I think that was definitely kind of a precedent for many of these, where it's like whoever owned the rights of the following cartoons had to kind of realize, okay, how do I do my kind of animation style and save my money and all that, and how do I not piss off the fan base? And trust me, there's plenty of the cartoons that divide some fans, and then there's others where it's like, I've had even some of my local pals, Neil, he's such a huge Transformers and Scooby-Doo fan, I literally would always address him in Scooby's voice and calling him a Transformer, and he'd just get all giddy. That's just what a fan he is. Hey, Rocky, I'm a Transformer.
Yeah, I don't know, all of the cartoons. Largely my
Yeah,
familiarity
okay,
is just like
it's like
the
that.
original one, because yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of them, and I don't even know. I'm sure there's some exclusive to other countries too that I'm not aware of.
It got
So-
even kind of more interesting because, I mean, almost all the cartoon lines would have a toy based on that, so this is like,
Oh yeah.
you would know which age it is even before looking at the logo at the bottom that says, circa '02.
Yeah, I mean that's why you would start a new show for sure. I want to release another Optimus Prime, but kids already have Optimus Prime. Oh, they have that Optimus Prime, but you don't have this Optimus Prime. You got to get this one now. So yeah, restarting shows, restarting series. Once you can kind of restart the show, then you can make them buy all new toys. Like back talking about Super Sentai, that Power Rangers based on, they reboot every year. And so every year there's a whole new Power Ranger suit and robots to get and villains to get and everything.
Take away the action, it's basically a soap opera.
Yeah. Well, especially Super Sentai is absolutely. Super Sentai's a lot more mature than Power Rangers, so it probably is a little bit closer to one of those soap operas. But yeah, I think that with Transformers being reinvented all the time allows the toys to be reinvented all the time, and I think that's one of the big reasons they do it.
And they're able to be a commercial without just making you just say, oh, okay, good Lord, I'm not going to buy the damn thing. It's able to do it competently and still be its own escapism without being shameless, because it doesn't have to be shameless. It knows what it is too. So it just,
absolutely
close to it.
Yeah, it's for selling toys. The cartoon is for selling, action figure and puzzle toys for the kids. Then you fast forward to the live action movies, and a lot of those are sponsored by car companies trying to sell their new model. And so they're trying to sell a whole different kind of toy to a whole different kind of boy and girl class of people. So
right. And it made sense. Michael Bay was always style over substance. It was like, yeah, that's of course why they hired him, because he wants fun stuff.
Yeah, he wants explosions. Who doesn't? God bless him.
I know Ryan really hates a lot of his movies, but I'm sorry. Michael Bay is just amazing. Who else can say that he got two of his over-the-top blockbusters in the Criterion Collection?
I don't know.
And Armageddon are both in the Criterion Collection. That's awesome. And they're technically in the same universe because they got the same actor playing the President of the United States.
See, that should count. Exactly.
And I'm not surprised. I mean, when he stopped working with Jerry Bruckheimer as frequently, I just wasn't really surprised at all. It's like, okay, yeah, so Spielberg let him do The Island, and Spielberg likes to do fun movies. That's why he hires other people, anyone, J.J. Abrams and so forth. And it's like, yeah, okay. So,
yeah, I mean, Spielberg's king of the summer blockbuster. He invented the freaking thing.
And you look at the first one, and you get a total kind of E.T. Gremlins kind of feel from it, just the connection that humans have to the bots. And it's like, yeah, it's not exactly the connection you need, but it makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of them. And then even more so than the first one, the last one, Bumblebee, which they put in the 80s, right?
So.
Takes place in 87, and it's completely an E.T. thing.
An essential, 80s movie. I mean, even just playing, the Transformers, the movie, one of the main songs, it's like, yeah. It's a love letter to the 80s all summed up.
The Stan Bush, you got the touch. Exactly.
You got the touch. And I had friends who actually liked both the cartoon and live action movie series. That they just were like, hey, call it what you want. I dig them. They're not perfect, but they're fun, most of them. And they did not want to see it because they're like, so none of the actors are coming back. I'm like, I'm telling you guys, you gotta just see it. It is literally a love letter to everything you love. You guys are 80s kids, for God's sakes. You should love this. And
that's definitely a thing, because Transformers has reboot their cast a couple of times in those live action series.
Yeah, even in the cartoons. I mean, a whole new set of characters and police chiefs and army guys or spy affiliates who are like, we must use the Autobots to fight the Decepticons. It's like, it's got that loose kind of appeal. I guess you could say that even like G.I. Joe, I mean, like, if you put it in live action form, you essentially get a lot of the same fun that you were getting with other stuff that was on TV at that time with the A-Team and freaking MacGyver, for God's sakes, and even other cult film franchises that became a cartoon later on, like Ghostbusters. It's just a total definition of Saturday morning fun.
Yeah, Extreme Ghostbusters at TMNT. The Turtles. Another
Ninja
great,
Turtles, perfect.
another
segment,
great,
yeah.
another great toys. Tons of great toys in that that they could introduce throughout the show as well. So it's great marketing.
And Ninja Turtles is kind of interesting because like everyone seems to realize, I mean, it's kind of even like the same thing as Batman. Everyone's so familiar with like the lighthearted version of it. It's like you do realize the comics were pretty grim, sometimes even gruesome. And it's like Transformers didn't have to worry about what audience it was for. It's like, I mean, in many ways, it kind of won over people just for the fact that they're cars. They look like cars. They disguise themselves as cars.
Yeah, they can really be kind of brutal though. I mean, the live action series 2, I know was criticized in the beginning for being so dark. And if you recall the movies, there's a lot of times where Transformers kill people, and those people die, and they're dead now. Even lighthearted ones like Bumblebee, they had a Transformer just literally liquefy a dude. And then it's just kind of like shrugs, and I mean, not to mention that if the Decepticons can get their way, they're going to destroy the whole planet and kill everybody.
Even the robots killing other robots just wasn't enough. We have to have them.
Yeah.
Killing.
There's so many deaths, human and Transformer deaths in all those live action movies. The
first one almost got an R
violent.
rating. Did you know that?
I could believe it. And
the first Avengers, believe it or not. And each time, like the first Avengers almost got R because, guess this, it was Coulson's death. It had to be a frame shorter. And the only way that frame actually made it into the film uncut was, believe it or not, in the UK version. So everyone was even more confused when he got his own Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show because they're like, he's definitely very dead. But in the US version, they shortened it. So it technically didn't, it was more plausible because the detail was less apparent on screen. And I don't know, to me it was always just fantasy escapism, kind of like Star Wars, like a bunch of, I mean, the average movie is rated PG both in the 80s and even nowadays, and each body count in those is technically like 3,000. So I guess I took it as a Star Wars kind of way, as Star Trek would only get intense maybe like on a season finale or with like maybe 3 other movies. So yeah, it's like for me it was never as intense as say something like a war movie or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, usually violence isn't always gauged by the statistics, right? I mean, you look at
no, it's always the tone or how
vivid it gets,
the sound effects sounding intense. Like I think that's how Kingdom of Heaven got an R, even if the blood was black. If you're just hearing too many necks snapped or just, it's like, okay, well, Foley just totally.
Yeah, you did that well. Have you been making that Foley on the side? You seem very prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, you look at Star Wars, like you said, I mean, and they killed a whole planet and everybody on it. And then, fast forward to Force Awakens, they were like, well, we're going to kill like 8 planets. Full of
8 dozen.
Even more, but
even George Lucas didn't have him in him to have this big a bloodlust.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's usually not gauged exactly by the body count, but more how horrific they demonstrate it. So the deaths of the Transformers, I suppose, are not entirely horrific.
I will say though, I agree with your point though, in that is like some of the later ones is like, okay, they did have a guy kind of bleeding oil and it's like, it's a little much.
Yeah.
Well,
oil's not blood, so it gets past the censors, those damn censors.
Mm-hmm. It gets even more redundant when you look at the TV version. It's like, well, technically it's now PG-15 because it's got all the language taken out or whatever with movies and shows, and it's like, or maybe you can just choose what group you want to show it to.
Yeah, I mean, just stick a warning in front of it.
I mean, I've seen anime that gets way more graphic, and
I've seen some very graphic anime. It's out it's out there on the internet,
It's
but
out
I think
there, guys.
you mean a different kind of graphic.
Oh no, I'm not even going there like I usually sing to. I was more like, I mean, there can be some very vivid, just like graphic people getting ripped up, and it's like, man, this is absolutely what everyone in Japan's nightmares are made of.
Well, some of them nightmares.
Yeah, some of them. I shouldn't say all. That would be bigoted. So, okay. But yeah,
Some
I
of them
mean,
love it.
oh, yeah, some of them want to go back to that. I'm like, you're kidding. I've had some cynical podcasters who I'm unfortunately no longer working with who just seem like they're very depressed. I'm like, maybe you should just stop watching horror movies. I think this is what's causing you to
I
be-
mean, I watch lots and lots and lots of horror movies. I'm hardly depressed.
All right.
So I blame it on them. Don't blame the movies.
No, I'm not blaming it. No, I'm not.
Or they say in
conscious man.
Scream, movies don't make psychos. They just make them more creative.
They absolutely make them more creative. I mean, when you watch Taxi Driver a billion times and get ideas, I mean, man.
I think they
Oh.
missed the point of Taxi Driver. In the end, he
Exactly.
rescues the innocent girl.
Right? Especially when it's all in his head.
Yeah. Well, maybe it is. Yeah,
Maybe it is.
It's actually not the ending I ever took from Taxi Driver. Never considered it always in his head, but
I know, because
yes, it could be.
even watching it for about 3 different times, it was one of those. Is like I never got that those last few times, but now I do. What do you overall like take away from Transformers besides it being just a very just lively sense of fun, like organized fun?
Yeah, I take organized fun. What I really like about the series is how it evolved, right? I mean, the first one really kind of takes itself seriously for a movie about car robots. It kind of really tries to have a moral and a lesson, and then you fast forward to
Part
two. Age of well, no, but even that's kind of following that continuity, right? I mean, the brink of the world is, and these are essentially just like, there's stories of like immigration, and there's stories with the Autobots being quote unquote aliens, and prejudice against them for that. There's stories of invasion, resource usage. It's not all childish. And then you fast forward to like Age of Extinction, and it's like Optimus Prime is gonna ride a dinosaur, cause it's fucking cool. And also, by the way, Transformers killed all the dinosaurs, and and then you got the last night, and it's like, well, Transformers were at the heart of King Arthur's court, and the whole planet Earth is Unicron. And I just like that they really kind of let the shackles off, and they were just like, yeah, the people who are showing up for this movie are coming with with full suspension of disbelief, right? They're coming to buy what we're selling. They want to see it get silly and bigger and more ridiculous.
I guess you could say part 3 was kind of a where they were just like, we don't even know who this is for now that we're changing the cast up again. So it's like now whatever we do from this, now we got to have a consistent cast now.
Yeah, well, 3 I think still has what's his name? It still has Shia LaBeouf. It doesn't have Fox anymore, but I believe it still does have Shia LaBeouf.
And that
Sam
one,
Witwicky.
It's basically, evil corporations are trying to do business with Decepticons. Don't they realize that they're going to get killed as a result of this mischief?
No, they never realize it. They always think they can use the Decepticons. That's why John Cena's great in Bumblebee. He's like, these guys are called the Decepticons. Is that not raising any red flags for anyone?
Yeah, it was a great line.
Yeah, which is great and exactly a good point. It doesn't make any sense why any humans would trust them, but I guess their instinct is they think they're more deceptive
They're the
than the
Trumps of the world.
they can deceive the deceivers.
They're untouchable.
And for the most part, these are kind of going back to the point. I like Taku films, right? Like Godzilla, Ultraman,
Part
Super
3
Sentai.
definitely is a total Godzilla tribute, especially in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so giant robots fighting is totally up my alley. I don't really care that much that they turn into cars. I do like the ones that turn into I like the Insecticons and I like the Dinobots, and so I like when they turn into animals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A bit more because I'm just not a car guy. But I'm sure some people who really like cars.
Well, and that's just it. Like I pretty much gauge a car chase by how invested I am with the person getting away. And the minute I just become rendered mute, and I get that many people like stuff like Fast and Furious, and that's cool. You like what you like. I'm kind of more of a Born Identity kind of James Bond kind of guy, so I'm just like, okay, if I care about him getting away, if I feel like he's threatened, then the movie has done its job, even though obviously the hero is not going to die. But if I feel threatened for that amount of time, no matter how many times I rewatch it, that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I like a smart car chase, French Connection, Bullet.
Those
kind of
are all
films.
good examples, especially when,
mhm.
I mean, French Connection kind of changed the game of the hero's not necessarily going to win, but everything is at stake. You know, he's trying to avoid being sloppy, and he has to just keep running and keep walking. He will not even breathe until,
But I like where they've taken the Fast and Furious franchise, similar to how they did with Transformers. They eventually were just like, fuck it. People are just here to see us do really crazy stuff. So, we're going to have the car swing on a rope by its axle and go over a whole gorge. And everyone's just going to think it's cool. No one's going to care about the physics of it.
Got that way, yeah. I mean, it's like everyone's going to have their cringe-inducing, one-liner that is just hysterically over the top and just fun. It's just
Everyone's
got their moment in the sun.
It's at the point where the franchise is like, we're gonna stop trying to make a movie that has something for everyone, and we're gonna lean into what our target audience really is, which is largely rowdy, drunk people, who just want to see something crazy that they can't see in real life anymore.
Right.
Well, anymore. Back when we used to have swinging cars everywhere. Back in the day.
Back in the day. This is not your granddad's car chase Latin movie.
Yeah.
So, more or less, I mean, why is Optimus Prime just everyone's favorite hero? I mean, because aside from the fact that they did a good job of just bringing a lot of the voice cast back, save for Hugo Weaving, who should have never been cast since his heart wasn't in it. But, I mean, there's just something about just Peter Cullen's just vastness too, and how he just interprets that role as like, yeah, I mean, he will always be Optimus Prime.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's such a good heroic character in that, he doesn't have very much dimension, which he is a robot truck. He's a robot truck, so I don't want to sound critical, but I mean, he is always down for the self-sacrifice play. He is always down for standing up to evil and never backing down. If Hulk Hogan, the character, was a robot truck, he'd be Optimus Prime. Right. They even have the red, white, and kind of white, but same color scheme, sort of. And so I don't know that he's my favorite, because I do find him a little bland for that. But again, it is a Saturday morning 30-minute car, toy commercial about car robots, so I don't want to be too harsh on it. But yeah, Optimus Prime, like I said, he's just always attacking the bad guys, never backs down.
Obviously, he's not Don LaFontaine. He doesn't have that thick a voice, but in fact, in many ways, Frank Welker kind of has a thicker voice, and that says a lot for a guy who, did so many of the G.I. Joe characters. Yeah, I mean, it seems like he plays it simple because that's how he interprets. That's really all there is to Optimus. He is simple.
Right.
We must fight until the day has been won.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas you look at, even some characters like Megatron show a bit more depth. They are.
Yeah, because Megatron, he hates anyone fucking with his planet. He feels like he has been wronged.
he hates anyone who messes with his power too, including other Decepticons or other villains, right? I think that.
And obviously all of mankind. Fuck mankind.
Yeah, for sure. Just anyone who challenges him at all. So he's very selfish, but he'll join up with Prime for his own advantage. I think we see that in the third movie. I think they do something like that.
Yeah, part 3 and 4 especially kind of just show, okay, so now that every human, is basically, it's kind of complimenting on all the covert ops and military contractors. Every other person basically is working for a division of Blackwater,
Yeah. I think in 4 he's Galvatron.
Yeah,
I think they reformed him to Galvatron.
Yeah, they reform his brain. They even get a different voice actor, and so they're just like,
yeah. They should have got. Yeah, that makes so much sense, right? Considering the film from the '80s with Galvatron, that they got, they had Nimoy do that. That voice for that character.
Casting.
So, yeah. Well, yeah. No, the best casting obviously is that animated one from I think it's 87. Yeah, it could be 86.
Now, Chris, when he was on the show last, talked about it, how he was such a huge fan, he, for the longest time, even had a bootleg, like VHS and DVD of it, that had some of the not safe for work language. Like, holy shit, Jesus Christ. Do you have that?
Yeah. I don't know if that's the one I have, if that's the one they've released. I don't have any bootleg one, so it's entirely possible that they don't, but I watched it sometime earlier this year, and I don't super remember it, but it makes sense when you're talking about a movie that had Eric Idle cast in it. So I'm not shocked. I think it is made a little bit more for adults, because what kid is going to really appreciate Nimoy and Orson Welles? Is that that's not to impress kids. That was to get adults in the theater too.
Well, and that's just it. I don't think we ever left that marketing, because, I mean, you even look at movies in the 90s that were marketed as, like, Terminator 2 had toys that were for kids. It's like, it was the most watched movie. So obviously a bunch of kids saw it, even though.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can make toys out of almost everything. Yeah, obviously all the Terminator movies had toys, I'm sure, especially after 2. But I wouldn't be surprised if 1 had a few once it reached, like, popularity in home video and stuff. I know I had some Terminator 2 toys for sure. And Jurassic Park, obviously. I mean,
PG-13, so it's like
certainly PG-13. Some people torn apart by monsters, but toys just flooded the toy store instantly. I had like every one from Jurassic Park. Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters.
Yeah, PG.
I'm sure didn't have any toys originally, but once kids started loving it, not only did they get a bunch of toys, but then they got a cartoon show, and then they got a sequel which was really made more for kids. It was really softened and made more kid friendly, and then they got Ecto Cooler. So once kids pick onto stuff, they're gonna sell them stuff. They just are.
Well, and more or less, I mean, why not? If you're gonna make something that just tries to appeal to every kind of audience, is like, yeah, just break through it. Don't try and over predict the success, because you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you look at they have the new Star Wars movies, and they made a lot of toys for those, obviously. But I know they made a lot of adult, oriented, like more action figure stuff too. And I don't know that those sold quite as well as they wanted to.
Probably not,
because that series was not as popular among adults as it was with kids.
And that's just it. I mean, I'm sure you could go on Amazon and eBay and just find just rows of just collector's items that you're like, seriously, who is gonna buy that for $300? But someone apparently might be.
Someone will.
Yeah.
Someone will, and they'll keep it in the box, and they can sell it at a convention in 20 or 30 years, and someone will pay $500 or $700. Who knows?
Yeah, very true. So I guess we'll talk about the main 80s cartoons. So, like, wasn't it like animated like by a division of like Bandai or something? It seemed like I read that somewhere.
I'm not sure who animates it specifically. It's definitely got not a sort of proto anime look for sure. So I would imagine it's Japanese animators somewhere, no matter where the Ultimate Production Company was. But yeah, I'm not specifically sure about who animated it.
Okay, let me look it up a bit. So it is okay for G1. It was Sunbow. Yeah, it was with Toy Animation. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Same people behind Mazinger Z and Dragon Ball and Digimon and One Piece.
Yeah, because it's definitely got that again, I kind of call it proto anime style. Like, hadn't come into full popularity yet. I don't think, but all the visual cues are kind of there. They're just not highly exaggerated, but the humans certainly definitely have that look.
Totally. They did good. It really does stand out, the animation, and I think that's just what it was overall. It just was able to just, whether or not you like the story or not, it was just really just a must see for every kind of animation fan.
Yeah, for sure. Whether the TV show or the movie itself, I think was very popular, and I think this is where animation starts to get those fans, right? Because I mean, in the 70s and even in the early 80s, cartoons are, kind of always funny and certainly more kid oriented, and then in the
Cute.
80s they started doing, here's more of an action cartoon. So that kind of animation got more popular amongst adults, and adults felt better about consuming it.
Absolutely. I mean, more or less, if people get, if you play it too safe, then yes, people lose interest. So you just always got to be very engaging. And like you say, if adults are going to watch it, they definitely need something with the animation style or characteristics that help it elongate over time, instead of just be like, okay, yeah, that was fun, but on to the next thing. I won't
Yeah,
remember.
and they're going for an animation style that's, a little bit realistic looking as far as a world with car robots in it. But it's not like anthropomorphic dogs and cats walking around talking.
CG, 3D detail. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
more-
it's this is a world where we couldn't do this with practical live effects and tell this story, but it's not meant to be kiddie, and it's not meant to be Looney Tunes esque. It's supposed to be kind of a action riveting story, and I think that's not only, it's leaning into the adults, it's also leaning into more of the teenagers who feel like they've outgrown the really kiddie cartoons, but they still want something to watch on Saturday morning.
Right. It's something that's not too goofy or wacky, and at the same time not restricted to just only a particular kind of like 10 or under age.
Yeah, I mean, almost any age can watch Transformers and enjoy it. Like, probably 4 and up, maybe 3. I don't know but just about any age can enjoy it. If your 15-year-old son told you that they were watching Transformers, you wouldn't be like, oh, grow up, watch something adult. Here's
Right.
C-SPAN.
How old are
or
you?
something.
You're still playing with crayons? Yeah.
Yeah. You might not buy him all the toys, but you could watch the show.
Totally. So I guess we'll talk about some of the follow-up cartoons that were happening. I do remember like the 2001, 2002 era one would get advertised all the time on Cartoon Network, and my brother won't remember this since he's more of a sports guy, but I'll never forget. He just guffawed, and he's like, they would have bumpers in between programming, and this one particular one was just like, shut your mouth, or some shit like that. And my brother just about might as well have shit boulders. He was guffawing. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah, and that was, do you know which one that was called?
I'm looking at it now, and I think 2001, 2002 era, based on the Wikipedia page, I'm thinking it had to have been
Transformers, Robots in Disguise, something like that.
I think so, and I think the era after that was kind of mocked by some fans as not being so hot. so great.
Yeah, I see. I'd want to talk about the one like the late '90s. Beast Wars.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
Beast Wars was really cool. It's like '96 to 2000, and
Beast Wars and Beast Machines. That's after G2. So yeah.
Yeah, because Beast Wars, it's not animated. It's kind of really proto CGI, and if you go back and watch it, it's very, very dated. Because it's not only is it early CGI, but they're trying to produce a lot of content, so it gets very, very cheap. But Beast Wars was I think a really successful series. They were able to take some of the characters that they had and slightly change them, right? They had like a Optimus Primal, right? And I think he's a gorilla, right? And so he'll play into I think the upcoming movie and
I bet.
Yeah. And the Dinobots are they're not the Dinobots anymore exactly. But I think one of his sidekicks is just called Dinobot. He just has Dinobot as a friend, and I think Megatron was a T-Rex as well. Beast Wars was really cool, although the animation was lame. But I remember enjoying it as like a 11 or 12-year-old kid, watching it on whatever the hell it was on. I can't remember anymore. But I thought that was a cool sort of time period for the show. So, but most of my TV experience with Transformers is basically as a kid, it's the original series, and then it's Beast Wars, and I have both of those. So I will revisit those from time to time on Saturday mornings if I feel like eating cereal and watching something cartoony.
Nice.
Those are two good go-to series to check out.
They've had some fun, just like other ones since then, but it's kind of been more just kind of a pay homage to it. And if you don't like the live action ones, this is where you go to. If you didn't like any other cartoons, this is where you go to. I know, Robots in Disguise was definitely the one I think that divided the fan base a bit, because it seemed like a lot of people weren't so keen on it, that animation style or where the story went.
Yeah, I mean the animation style usually doesn't bother me when a new series comes, like Batman Beyond or
that
Batman.
was so much fun, and there was so much hate on that one at the time. Jeez, yeah.
Right, yeah, and then people look back and they're like, oh wait, actually this was sweet, we were wrong. But I don't mind animation styles sort of changing and evolving, especially with different series. I think they should get a new style book and a new style guide and draw this a different way.
I'm for a different style. Just don't look like a very like no effort was put into it at all kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that is sort of one of the newer styles that they do, where they'll have kind of almost animation style, right? Like the new DuckTales, right, is a very different animation style from the original DuckTales. It is much more kid looking and cartoony, and is more like joke oriented.
Totally.
But it's a show that's enjoyable for kids and adults. I've watched a bit of that, and it's definitely an enjoyable show.
Very well stated. Yeah, I mean, one way or another, it was going to definitely have to approach a different company to produce it, because times change and interests of a company change. It's like, yeah, we used to do that. We're best known for it, but we don't do that anymore. It's or maybe your prices went up, or maybe you just wanted to whoever's owning it at that time wants to have their own brand of visual look. So yeah, there's multiple reasons why it went the way it went. And I think, like you say, a lot of people just are always adamant about changes. I mean, you get that with even just all the different ages of Star Trek. It's like, yeah, I never kept up with it. That doesn't necessarily mean it was bad. So check it out and accept it on its own terms.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who will hate new incarnations even when it's the same company. Like we mentioned earlier, Super Sentai undergoes a whole redesign every year when the new series starts. Same with Kamen Rider. And even though it's been Toei producing them, in Sentai's case, all the way since the 70s to now, it's always been the same company that they have new looks. They evolve with new technology, right? They start using
One way or another.
CGI.
Yeah.
They have different writers too. I know there's some people who just won't watch a certain series written by a certain writer.
Oh God.
They'll and that writer may have a very specific style that they really don't enjoy. So yeah, people don't like change until hindsight comes, and then something new comes in that they hate even more, and then they'll look back and give something else a chance.
Right. Or who knows? They get tired of rewatching the same thing, so eventually they go over to the new stuff and just say, okay, here it goes. Maybe I'll like it better this time.
Yeah, and they probably will. Probably will like it better the second time, because the worst of it is done. What expectations weren't met. It's not going to get any worse most of the time. And then they can start looking at the things they do like and look at the series in more of a light. So yeah, there's definitely a ton of Transformers series. I have not watched most of them. I can see that some are like on Discovery Family, and a few are on like Cartoon Network and stuff like that. So has there been a streaming one yet?
Not so much. I'm
surprised Netflix hasn't just done a Transformers.
Actually, I take that back. I think there is one that is on Netflix, but I don't know which one that is exactly. I know I've messed with Rescue Bots, and that was a total example of one where it's like, okay, so no foul and just trying to be very kid friendly, but it's also just kind of very just animation style is just very jumpy at times.
Yeah, it looks like War for Cybertron. Looks like it's a trilogy that was on Netflix and only started last year. So yeah, I thought I had heard something about that.
Oh, for sure. I never saw Transformers animated, but I saw that was big on Cartoon Network, and that had a big voice cast. Prime, I can totally recommend. That even was followed by a TV movie special they did called Predacon Rising, which is a fun movie. But yeah, Prime, I think, pretty much had it down with the animation, voice cast, and characters. Just, it was cool seeing all these secret federal agents following these teens around, and covering the Cybertron battles. And they were just pretty good at just having their animation, again, just stand out, and the actual storyline wasn't overcomplicated and, like you say, still intriguing. They had all kinds of people attached to it, including, again, Kurtzman and Orsi, who were working on the live action, the first two live action movies.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think there, like we said, we're talking about a lot of shows that we do like, and the new ones come out. You're either, for some people, they just don't really evolve with the series. It's always about the nostalgia for them. That is really kind of where I am with Transformers. I definitely like the original series. That's what I'd go back to. I don't know how many of the newer ones I would really watch. But I mean, if they were on, I wouldn't turn them off.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't turn it off, and I think you'd dig Prime just because it does a good job of just kind of building up the whole thing, and maybe making some occasional references to the 80s cartoon, and it's just...
Do any of them follow the continuity of the movies? Do any of them exist in the same universe as the movies?
I don't think they do. I definitely don't recall making any specific reference, but it was also kind of cool to just it was comfortable being its own thing, and that's kind of not what I don't think any of us got from some of the 2000s ones. They just kind of felt like, okay, well, another Transformers cartoon is inevitable, but why does this one exist?
Yeah. What are you bringing new to the universe or the canon?
And I mean,
if you can, how much depth can you get out of a show about car robots?
Yeah, and I mean, Prime definitely was good at just actually crafting the whole actual universe, showing you how dense the planets and stars are, as well as even how they were going to orchestrate their battles, being a little strategic. So it's like, okay, so it's kind of a tactical kind of show. I like that. And again, yeah, not enough can be said about a lot of the voice talent that was added. Even Tony Todd, who played the Fallen in the movie, showed up to voice a different character. So it's like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, they don't. It's a franchise that doesn't have any problem with pulling in the talent. Seems like everybody is willing to work on either the live action movies or the animated TV shows or movie. How do you get bigger than Orson Welles or Leonard Nimoy? They got Anthony Hopkins for the fifth film. So there doesn't seem to be anyone who'll tell them no.
Totally. And so other than Hugo Weaving, I don't see anyone say. I mean, I've seen other people say, "Oh, Michael Bay's a dick," and it's like, because Michael Bay is very studious. It's like, when it gets done, it gets done, but stop fucking around, So he's that kind of guy. More or less, I mean, so War for Cybertron is interesting because, I mean, I did once play a video demo of one of those games that came out in the early 2010s at Best Buy, and that was a lot of fun. And welcoming to the show now, we also got Christopher Colon. How are you, sir? Oh, he's not showing up. Shit. Okay, what's going on? Anywho, yeah, more or less, I think it is also interesting. You can also tell what kind of a person likes movies that can be either junky or just imaginative without completely detailing. It's like there is a way to do that. You can be visually stunning and involving without necessarily changing every kind of game. And I think that's what the movies are just supposed to be. You need that kind of fun movie. It doesn't have to be even so bad it's good, like a canon film, or just.
Yeah, I mean, I think at worst, well, except for the second movie, but at worst, the worst thing the franchise really will do is just kind of bore you with the human characters. But that just seems to be a trap for all those movies. Even the legendary Godzilla movies are like that. They just they want to just focus you on the humans. They seem to think a lot like
That's
the
only reason
MCU
you're
that'll
here.
make the movie deeper or something. And I can almost understand that with legendary stuff, but in Transformers case, you have robot car characters, but they can talk and they can show emotion. You can tell human stories with your robot cars. And I think that's when the film series is at its strongest, when it's choosing to do those kind of things. Did you watch Rescue Bots?
I think I did see part of that, and that was one of those. It was very confusing what age range that was made for, because
I think it's definitely for the younger, and I think that's smart, right? This is still a franchise that should get most of its bread and butter from kids, and so.
Oh, my bad. Yes, I did. Yeah, that's the one I mentioned earlier, where it was like, but like to say, I can't blame them for wanting to make it for that age group.
Yeah. Sell more toys, but also get those kids into the franchise, into the series. Maybe get them more willing to ask to go see the movie in theater. The question is whether the movies in the theaters were tame enough for kids.
I think they were. I mean,
I think kids saw them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, at least a teen is going to see it anyway, regardless.
Right, but I mean, I think if they had made it something like, even just PG, because I'm sure most of them hit 13. Making a movie that a parent doesn't think twice about taking their 7-year-old to.
Anything that doesn't make sense will make sense eventually, and I mean, it's just the same thing as music that gets played on the radio all the time, even if it's not for your audience or a song you would prefer to have your kids saying, they'll fill in the blanks later. Oh, they were actually talking about that the whole time with the song.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has less to do with the kids being lost, because I don't think they would be, and more with the parent going, I don't think you're ready for that. That sounds too violent. I think it's better to, as much as a lot of people hate it, sometimes it's better to lean on the side of cautious. I mean, anyone can watch a kids movie, for the most part, but kids can't watch the more adult stuff. So you're really cutting off your audience when you lean more adult. And sometimes that gambit pays off, though. A lot of adults hate kids a whole lot and really hate kiddie childish stuff. So.
Welcome, Chris. How are you?
Hey guys, it's Chris Colon.
We'd like to welcome Chris Colon.
Chris Colon of Two Strangers One Podcast. We're just throwing out there a little cheap plug for the podcast.
and he actually sells a wonderful perfume cologne. No, he doesn't.
Well, you're basically right on time, Chris.
War for Cybertron is just aired on Netflix. You talked a little bit about that last time. Are you caught up on any of that?
Yeah, I've been back with the Netflix shows. Originally, there was one that was originally done on an app called Go90.
Oh,
and it was like Go90, and it was one of those like upstart apps trying to like battle for like YouTube and stuff like that as to be like your go-to video app, and Go90 reflecting to you turning your phone 90 degrees to use it as an app, as a like a viewing thing, as opposed to just like looking up Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. And all of these shows, all of the most recent Netflix shows, they have one of their main writers is a gentleman by the name of George Kirstick. And
nice.
And I might have I'm like a religious I try to always convert people to this cartoon that came out in the early 2000s called the Megas XLR. And it was on the Toonami block. The after, for a lot of people, it was their after school show. I'm an old man. I'm 44, so to me, I just happened to catch it. And I think they also gave it on Saturday evenings, which is when I caught it. And so George Kirstick, if you follow this guy on Twitter and stuff like that, he is a diehard Transformers fan. He has his room where his friends. And when I say friends, these are people who write for Adventure Time, who write for the old Green Lantern animated show on Toonami. A bunch of people a bunch of industry people played Dungeons and Dragons in his toy room, and his toy room, like, it's literally like one shelf or a couple of shelves are like dedicated to like every version of Optimus Prime, and and every version of. And if you're looking them up, it's a KRSTIC. And he's like clicking in the background. And I've kind of prided myself in becoming a friend of his over the past like 8 or 9 years over the podcast. Like that was one of the whole reasons I made a podcast, is just like stalk people that I like. And I remember when he even announced that they were going to be doing an animated series. And all the people in that writing room, because of course people rotate in and out, but he's been for all 3 series, like War for Cybertron, Siege, what's the other one? Planet Rising. Back when they did the Go90, it was that was the Combiner Wars. All the Combiners being like Devastator and Scorponok and not Scorponok, excuse me, Computron.
And those close. That was a complicated name.
The Gestalt, the robots that are many that come into one. So all the Netflix series and like I said, even including the one that was on Go90, were all held, were written with love. and and I know they get a little, they don't, they get a little bit of flack, but understand that the people behind that show are like, they want to put out the best possible show. And even the most recent one, the Kingdom, but that now involves Beast Wars? Because
I'm not sure.
oh yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, the one that came out like less than a month ago.
We were talking about the very, very kid-friendly one, Rescue Bots, and how epic Prime was. Did you ever see Prime?
Prime, I watched the first couple seasons, and that was that was on like a special channel, right? That was like on.
It was just on Cartoon Network, but they did it was kind of confusing because they kind of had animated the 2D one kind of going before that, but yeah, Prime was all CGI animation, and they did the Beast Hunters, Pedicons, Rising special.
Yeah, and see, unfortunately, Prime. Although I recognize Prime for what it was. It's one of the shows that I didn't get into. The same way I didn't get into Beast Wars. And I watched it on occasion. When it was on.
Really?
I'm a G1 purist, man. But
I thought Prime was at least a love letter to G1. Well,
oh no, absolutely.
Because like the other ones in the 2000s were just like, I don't know what you're doing except just trying to stretch out the franchise.
The one thing I didn't like about Prime, and I kind of cut into the call a little early, and this is one of the things that I always prophesize. Like to me, like this is like a religion, is that the one thing I loved about the '86 movie that was a sin in Prime is that I don't care about the human in the show. The show is called The Transformers. The one thing, when you watch any other movie, if you watch the live action Transformers, if you watch the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the one from 90, I'm trying to remember the other examples that I used. They always have like a human protagonist that they introduce us to. Like you're familiar with the cartoon. And like, oh, here's Danny, and he's a pickpocket, and he's in trouble with his mom, and this and this and that, and like you're watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the '90s version. I don't care about Danny. I didn't pay my $8 at the time or whatever to go see Danny. I want to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the one thing I always love about the '86 movie is that it jumps right into the action. It goes, 2 seconds into the movie, we have this beautiful, peaceful planet. Oh, here comes the Delta variant plans, and it's Unicron chomping away at the side of the planet. And yes, the movie did technically have Daniel, Spike's son. We're talking about the '86 Transformers, which I guess for some people and maybe even for Hasbro were like, we need somebody in this movie to represent the kids. But the movie wasn't about Daniel. It wasn't like, the movie started out with, hey, here's Daniel. And of course, 5 or 10 minutes into the movie, we see Daniel fishing with a hot rod and stuff like that. But the movie doesn't stick with Daniel. It's not Daniel's story. And I'm glad that they put someone, all these movies, yes, you have to put someone in there to represent the audience. And I get that in storytelling. But this one was like, you know what? These kids bought the toys. They've been watching the cartoons every day. They know all these characters. Let's get right down to the destruction. Let's
right. One of the reasons to keep
killing off their childhood.
One of the reasons to keep a human in there somewhere, though, is these are cars, right? At the end of the day, they don't necessarily need someone to drive them. They're not
used ones either.
But they need someone to ride in them. And a lot of these kids playing with the toys also imagine riding inside a Transformers. So I think, especially in the case of like Hot Rod and Daniel, him really transforming and switching and throwing the kid inside is along with the Stan Bush song rocking at the same time is one of the popular things.
Yeah, I'm just glad the movie didn't start with Daniel. And here's a kid and he's on the moon and he's wearing a spacesuit and here are my friends, the Transformers. Here's my friends, the Autobots. Oh, there's Optimus Prime. I
must explain everything to you, so there's virtually no suspense.
That's why the movie's so good, because it doesn't do that, And once again, I understand the whole point of telling a story with someone for the kids to represent, but and then what they do, they gave him his suit, and his suit was a damn Transformer. So
yeah. So, in animated form, which of the other animated characters do you just kind of really take away from it? Like, Prime had Ernie Hudson as the special agent, so that kind of worked for me. It's like, okay, I like that the authority figure in here this time isn't a dick, let alone just stating the obvious to the kids who shouldn't even be here. But the movies kind of didn't really have that as much. They just had some military meatheads.
Yeah, I mean Spike, which was at the time, and I say Spike even though I think like technically in canon, like in the G1 cartoon they called him Spike. In the movies they changed it to Sam, which I believe his name always was Sam. They just called him Spike as like a nickname. And
Spike.
and the first, but by the time we got to the G1 cartoon, Spike was already like in his 20s. He's a construction worker. He's a construction worker with his dad.
He's a total blue collar guy who shouldn't even be
best.
spending his free time doing this. He should be working 9 to 5.
Yeah, it is. At least, I mean, what if it's one of those like depressed towns that like, everyone from the town works in that one factory or whatever. So, he's at least like 18, which is, when you're looking at, because when the original Transformers came out, I mean, 84, I was
I'm surprised they never worked that in. He's at the factory one day and someone accidentally, finds out some, part that's actually one of the Transformers in disguise,
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard when you're 5 years old or in my case, about 5 or 6 years old when that cartoon came out. Like, you're not. I liked Spike, and once again, he did represent like humans and Earth, and he was a good character. He's very positive and trusting and stuff like that. But yeah, there really wasn't anyone to like super relate to when you're 6 watching. But I mean, I just loved Optimus Prime. I wanted to be a giant red truck.
For sure. And are you much of a car enthusiast before you got into this? Or
Actually, no. I've never
This is the funny thing here. We're not, are we? We're just kind of like, we want smart, action describing, guys kind of movies, just detailing what we need to know and then just getting us into the thick of the escapade.
Well, I don't know that Transformers is a good gateway to being a car guy, because like normal cars can't turn into robots, so they're very underwhelming.
Where do I get that model? Oh, it's not in any town.
Yeah, and you have the guy. Oh, and that's a McLaren. That's a McLaren Thunderhawk or something. They only made 300 of those in 1985. And
Only this year will you find that exact edition.
But can it turn into a jet?
Coming this summer. You're not kidding, first dibs.
And it is kind of, and of course, like when we got to the Bay movies, I mean, it would have been very unrealistic for them. You can't stick to 1980s styles. A VW Bug, from the 80s, is going to stick out in 2007. And so I don't begrudge them for like going for, and plus it was one of those deals where like Michael Bay went to General Motors, and they're like, we'll let you use any car we have, as long as like they're pretty much, most of them were like General Motors. So I can't, as much as I don't like those movies, I can't get mad at Michael Bay for like, now Bumblebee's oh my goodness, what am I forgetting?
He's a Camaro.
Camaro, yeah, he's a Camaro.
It's a Camaro. Yeah, like we said earlier, like the TV show, the cartoon show is to sell toys to kids, and the live action is to sell toys to adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
so once again, just the growing argument of, well, where do I promote this to? Who is the audience?
And those kids grew up and now they have jobs and hopefully more disposable income. Before they were spending their parents' money.
I don't know how Camaro sales did around time Transformers. Maybe well, maybe not. I'm not sure. I didn't buy one. I can tell you that.
I mean, it looked, like that particular year of Camaro, I mean, did look badass. The 2007 Camaro looked pretty cool. I mean, if I had the disposable income.
Don't we all wish? It's like just be buying every kind of stupid car that was a collector's item. I remember I used to have someone who had like a bunch of like clearly like they got it when it was first out, and it was just like old, like we're talking 2003, 2005 era cars. I'm like, wow, someone did that and is like, here, you got the T-free Rise of the Machines, Toyota. There's this, you got this Hulkbuster 2004 edition car. I'm like, jeez, every movie was licensing its logo onto a car.
Oh yeah,
But it didn't matter if it wasn't going to be a hit or not. You got it first dibs.
Yeah, and you can. Hey, look, they give you the studio gives you a bunch of cars, some to smash up and stuff like that. I mean, and it's a commercial. I could tell you off the top of my head. I know like the Marvel movies, they use Audis, and it's because for the past 10 years they've been shoving Audis down our throats, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I love the Marvel movies and. I've never. I mean, I guess it hasn't pushed me because I never bought an Audi, but at least I know that.
Oh, totally. And I mean, we're going to be telling all our other nieces and nephews, grandkids in some cases, like, yeah, I mean, so I remember the ad when it first came out, but you got to realize they didn't used to do ads, like that 20, years prior to that. And now here they are. It's like everything is licensed a certain way. And I'm sure there's going to be probably a Batman versus Superman truck on eBay somewhere. There's got to be some kind of Avengers Ultron car.
Well, I mean, remember for years, but way before they got known for being like rappers' cars, like the Escalade was from the Matrix Reloaded.
Oh yeah,
they had that big badass, and it was the Escalades and the CTSs. And once again, this is, I mean, I know I'm bringing this stuff up like I'm a car guy. I'm certainly not. I'm a sci-fi geek guy. Yeah, and before like all the rappers started driving them all and stuff like that, like the Escalade was like, oh man, that's the car from the Matrix Reloaded, man. That badass. I mean, the rest of the movie sucked, but that scene on the highway was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back even further, right? I mean, James Bond had a
right.
different
It doesn't
car
matter
every
if
movie.
The movie sucks. At least let's watch this one scene, see where this was filmed.
But they were selling cars off of Bond, or everybody would want the classic car because Bond had it, and Goldfinger, or whatever. They want the Aston Martin
Mini Cooper
that he had.
After I saw Jason
Aston.
Bourne driving it, I wanted a '78 Dodge Charger because Blade drove it his first movie.
Yeah, exactly. The car in Bullet, and then there were all those TV shows that I didn't really watch in the 80s and probably the 70s too. Renegade and Knight Rider, and I'm sure they sold some cars. The DeLorean only ever sold because of Back to the Future, right? I mean, I don't think anyone else ever bought a DeLorean for any other purpose or reason. No. Is there anyone who ever bought a DeLorean that didn't see Back to the Future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would be very shocked if there was someone saying, "I don't watch," but you're for real? Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly before that movie came out, a few people bought it, but the reason that car sold anything was that movie.
And they're traditionally crappy cars, if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
I think like, and it was, I mean, not to veer off on a DeLorean tangent, but it was, I think it was the episode of comedians in cars getting coffee.
I think so. Yes.
And the joke was, and Jerry Seinfeld would always bring out like a special car to represent the person he's interviewing, and it was, oh my goodness, what's his face? The guy who does the voice of Ratatouille, the comedian.
Oh, Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt, and they had Patton Oswalt, and he goes, for Patton Oswalt, who's a sort of a known nerd, I got him the DeLorean for that episode, and literally in the episode, the car just broke down while they were driving it. And obviously whoever they got the DeLorean from, it was someone who was maintaining it. It was someone who owned it and probably loved it. But just the fact of the matter is that it's a crappy car. Two comedians can't drive it for 20 minutes without it breaking down.
Yeah.
And I highly doubt Jerry was like zooming up and down the highway with it.
Yeah. I definitely not for that kind of show and all that insurance that takes. It's like
I don't know. He had to try to get it up to 88, right?
Oh my God.
It's easy to go to 80 when you're on a highway though. So here's the other question: were they on a highway or were they just on a service road?
They were still.
It doesn't matter.
Like it was in the city.
Wherever it is.
Well, I know it'll break down wherever. I'm just saying.
Residential doesn't matter. Gotta get up to 88.
Well, and this still goes on the same theme. I mean, Back to the Future is a perfect example. It's a pretty adult movie that was still approved for kids. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think Transformers was always, I mean, even same thing with G.I. Joe. You got guns, but much like, again, the A-Team and MacGyver, they never actually successfully kill anyone, and that's why I love that Community episode that animates them the exact same style. It's like, why do we have guns if we're not going to... Why are we going to prison if we're supposed to defeat the enemy? Oh, we're just supposed to just knock them out. Okay. Why we got laser guns, for fuck's sake?
And I remember, I want to say it was about 10 years ago or early 2000s, there was a batch of Transformers, and I want to say they were called like Transmissions or something like that. And what they were doing was like
Transform by transmission.
I'll give me a second to look it up, but they were purposefully making Transformers out of everyday cars, or for like cars that you can purchase and stuff like that. I gotta look it up. It was like Transmissions or something like that, but so at least because we all want. I mean, come on. I mean, am I the only one guilty of putting an Autobot sticker on my hood?
I have a Decepticon sticker.
Oh, traitor. Now we know who's selling us out. So answer me this, Chris. We brought up an interesting point. Why do all these corporations of the world want to do business with the Decepticons? They just think their money really shields them from that much destruction?
Well, that's, I mean, the
I get that's the
80s
riddle,
cartoon.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, why do people, do business, well, I guess it's something like an Enron or something like that is because, if there were giant killer robots and they said you're going to do business with us, I mean,
Yeah. Did they make themselves look like a gangster or something? We're loan sharking you out of here. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it is an interesting illusion. I'm sure someone would be tempted for that eventually. It's like, yeah, I mean, if we can make money, sure. Scheme it. Man, can I store my money inside this giant robot and just fetch it sometime?
And a lot of the G1 episodes, and it was a sign of the times. A lot of the episodes were all about like energy and maybe not energy conservation, but they were always taking over like a hydro dam, like a
something that would upset the Sierra Club.
And then
found out.
They were doing deals with, there was a country, and I swear to God, and I have to look it up that also, like it was called like Carbomadad or something like that.
Oh my God.
Carbomistan or something like that. Of course, this is the 80s. And
stretching there.
And they're dealing with like guys who have to who control oil and stuff like that. So
it looks like it's Carbombia.
Carbombia. Okay, that's the one.
I bomb your car. Get it?
Yeah, and
none of that has aged good.
But yeah, I mean, there was always sort of that energy thing, which in the 80s, there was that kind of push for like green, let's go green and let's rely less on fossil fuels and stuff like that.
After we do a Top Gun worthy military ad, let's now go to the conserve energy and keep the environment clean. Yeah. Just a bunch of mixed messages in there. It's like, you do realize they're even on different sides of the political argument. That's how weird it is how it's all placed together.
Megatron was always like literally looking for power. I mean, other than, political power and stuff like that, because he was
happy, I guess.
Yeah, he wanted to bring the rest of the Decepticons from Cybertron to Earth to, complete his army and just, and use Earth as like a fueling station. Like let's loot this planet for what it's worth.
Baby. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He needed the resources too, and so many of those human characters are going to try to exploit Megatron for their own advantages too, and use him as a pawn. At least that's a repeated trope throughout the films, and then he ends up turning the tables on them because he's more evil than they could ever hope to be, and smarter.
Right. Especially in part 3, he's basically taken on the Jeff Bezos, Donald Trump.
Yeah. Now, wasn't one of the I forgot. I mean, I've seen all the live action movies, but one of them is where they go and they literally blow up the sun and collect the energy.
It has to be at least part 4, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of the later ones, but like that was sort of the. that's the whole reason they chose Earth, because they were planning to blow up the sun and put collectors on Earth to collect energy. And it's sort of, I thought all the movies were going to be sort of like that, where they had to do with energy and stuff like that. But because the 80s, once again with the 80s, there was sort of that heightened sense of like, we have to go green.
They gotta give. Well, yeah, hell, they gotta. Anyone from Cybertron has to pretty much cause more destruction than an average Death Star does in a Star Wars movie, as we were talking about. So, did you know, Chris, that some of these movies almost got rated R, just like Avengers 1?
Ah, how
Avengers 1 almost got an R because Coulson's getting stabbed had a little too much blood on the sword, and they shortened it, but the UK had the final word because they actually saw that, and so they were confused when he got his own spinoff because there was more detail, and they're like, there's no way he's coming back alive. But same thing with part 1. For whatever reason, there was just too many cars exploding and people running away, and the MPA freaked out, and then Spielberg, with the unlimited power he had, literally just bitch slapped it away from him, saying no, no, and no. It's a kids movie. It's a PG-13. Slap it on there. I invented that fucking rating, for God's sakes. It was like, we should not be having this conversation, and I think it's fine. I can see why there'd be some concern, but it's like, I mean, I really have seen worse. I've seen movies that have very graphic murder scenes or risque content that is like, yeah, I don't think a kid needs to be watching that, even at 13.
Yeah, and those
I gotta learn it
movies.
sometime.
When you watch those movies, and I'm the type of person, even though I didn't love the movies, I every time I was like an abused puppy. Every time I kept coming back hoping that the master would change or whatever. And
my sister and I would see him each opening day.
I had some opening day, but I saw in an IMAX theater.
Even if we thought the last one sucked, we'd be like, yeah, but it's going to be a one-of-a-kind experience, and there's going to be some fun you take away from it, just like all the Fast and Furious and Expendables. It's like, okay, let's just go.
And like all these movies have like a 45-minute, you could have ended the movie, but oh no, here's a 45-minute battle scene, and by the time it's done, you feel like you've been through you've been
5 roller coasters, and spilled your popcorn and gotten 5 refills. Yeah. So I think that's just it. Is like, everyone complains about the runtime. Is like, well, this isn't made for all the patsies or the ones who easily want. I mean, this is basically 5 different rock concerts, if anything. I mean,
yeah.
We're already been talking music finally on this show, and it's like, that's just it. I mean, it's not for everyone, but for most people, I mean, a concert, you got to get your money's worth. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of concerts I've been taken to where it's like, okay, after Act 1, I'm going home, but I can't because I came with a bunch of people. It would be rude since I'm supposed to be out here with them, but this band is, in my opinion, about to perform everything on the B side, not anything I need to hear. So it is hard. It's not always a winning formula. Sometimes you're only entertained by a third of what you saw that evening, and while that might be an abysmal movie score, sometimes that's just the fact. It's like, well, yeah, it was a stinker, but it was worth watching. And I feel like James Bond's going to become that way, since they've really fucked up the whole release date, and now they made a deal with Amazon where they're like, okay, we're not going to take your past delayed movie, but we'll gladly take up any future entries you got. So I think it's going to be interesting in a post-streaming world now.
And just real quick, just to follow up on what I was talking about earlier, I found what I was talking about. The toy line came out in 2003, based on real cars, was called the Transformers Alternators. And according to this, it was based on a Subaru Impreza, a Dodge Viper, a Jeep Wrangler, a C5 Chevy Corvette, a Mazda RX-8, and a Ford Mustang GT. So I mean, of course, still high performance cars, but like based on, and once again, this is 2003, before the live action movie. So basing the car mode on existing, like hey, I could have if you wanted to, you can collect all those cars. But I just let to follow up on that.
How many of those did you collect?
Oh, I think at that, in 2003 I was married, so I wasn't allowed to have any fun.
Not even buy a toy or a birthday. I mean,
I had a mortgage to take care of. But yeah.
Used to tease me when I would get a lot of the used movie maniacs from McFarlane Toys, and it's like, oh, shut up! You got a bunch of stuff you're never gonna open on your desk that someone got you as a gag gift. This is my fun. Oh, stop playing with your dolls, kid. What would you like to see from the toy line in the future?
That is a
Would you
good
like
question.
would you like to see them do some crossovers with some more advanced GI Joe? 'Cause it seems like they haven't been making much of GI Joe. All I see often are just those core action figures, which are awesome and all, but it's like those just look like, again,
Yeah.
just,
How many times can you get Duke and Snake Eyes and Lady
Oh, yeah.
J?
these core figures. I mean, I'm not kidding. They look like every other kind of covert ops, just kind of. They look like the A-Team on steroids with a bunch of other Stallone rejects, and it's like, jeez, it's like, and some of them look like terrorists in a Canon Films production. It's like, jeez, the 80s
Yeah.
never died.
And I just,
I mean,
you
but
know,
they were doing it first, right? Everybody else copied them.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Canon Films was just like, let's do GI Joe and 18 without any filter.
I can't get like, you know, and I can't get behind the two GI Joe movies. I was not a fan of. Like, you know, like at least with the Transformers movies, I kept coming back, and then for them to put out a Snake Eyes movie where the first poster has the guy with the mask off, and I'm like, that's blasphemy. You are never. That's the whole thing. You are never to see Snake Eyes' face. I don't care if it's
that. So they did a Judge Dredd, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to see his face, and you know, I mean, I know that's kind of hard. If that's the case, then don't do a prequel story. Or if you're gonna do a prequel story that starts, you know, the second he puts his mask on. Because you're not supposed to.
By Lorenzo di Bonaventura, who owns both these Hasbro franchises with Paramount and Summit and all that, and it seems like that one was a very confusing one, because my sister even admitted, I didn't even know it was out. I didn't see any ads for it. It's like, I swear I saw a few TV spots, but it was very under released, so it did kind of just seem like it was just a dump week. And it doesn't help that all our other co-hosts on this show are very iffy about the GI Joe movies, because again, Corey from Podcasting After Dark absolutely loves both those movies. He's like, everything I hate about today's 2000s 2010 movies. And then John, I know, is a big fan of Stephen Sommers from The Mummy and other films and Deep Rising, and he's like, I like the first one. I couldn't stand the first one, but I like part two is just a mindless excuse for The Rock. But yeah, this is like, all those movies are lacking is just definitely they didn't need to have heart. They needed to have some sense of kind of purpose. Fun. Yeah, and definitely fun. Because
it wasn't. Like, they weren't fun. You know, and as much as like I hate, you know, I shouldn't say hate. As much as I just like the Michael Bay movies, you know, they had parts where they were fun. You know, and you know, whose fucking idea was to put Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Cobra Commander? Because
someone
he's
was
the least most
villain
intimidating person on the planet.
And I'm like, he's just too young to be a villain, let alone you don't even know that's him because he's in heavy, you know, it's like Idris Elba in Star Trek Beyond. Who would you even know who that is when there's just anyone could play it when it's in a makeup.
Yeah, give me, I don't know, just I couldn't get into it.
It's kind of with how we feel with every other cartoon that's not by Pixar nowadays, is like, well, okay, so it just looks like a cut up video game segment, and then you just got every famous face you could put on the poster who doesn't necessarily even become the character. All you really see on screen is someone in a voice booth in your imagination shouting, you know, commands. It's like, okay, so they didn't ever really become the character because there was no becoming it. It's just ordering people around and, you know, showing up for easy money. And I definitely had that with DreamWorks movies, and it would be interesting, since they started out as a production company, if they relaunched I know they're closed down and everything, but it'd be interesting who do you think could be the future of animation for something like this?
I don't know. I think now with everything getting cheaper, I mean, you know, with digital animation online and stuff like that, I think, you know, I would love to see like more. I want to see the Pixar version of Blumhouse. You know how Blumhouse is sort of like this independent thing. And
Okay.
I would like to see like a company kind of step up and say like, you know, we're gonna do features.
We're going to do 5 different shorts with a theme, and that's the only thing that connects them. They have nothing to do with each other, and it's a bunch of international filmmakers and
Yeah.
stars jumped on the bandwagon.
And nowadays people could do incredible things on their home computer. I mean, you know,
They
even
really could.
you know, I mean, I haven't watched it yet, but you know, like the whole Monsters Inc. show on Disney Plus. I haven't watched it.
I didn't
But
even
from
know that
what
was a
I've
thing. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's called Monsters at Work, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a continuation of the movie with Mike, you know, Wazowski and
Take your
Sullivan.
monster to work day.
And you know, and from what I understand, everybody worked at home. You know, so I mean, imagine, you know, where everyone, you know, you have like a smaller house, or even, I mean, let's be real, a lot of these places, you know, outsource to Korea and stuff like that. So, you know, but you let it be like a more personal, you know, let these, you know, I would love to see like an art house animation thing. And of course, you know, every now and then give us like the giant hit that we want, but you know, give us more beautiful movies, give us more,
Right?
you know, something, you know, and you know, and I'm not the biggest anime fan, but you know, like, you know, the Miyazakis, you know, the movies like the, you know, they're like that, where like they're so beautiful, and it's one artist.
You should
like
see it at least
vision.
once just to see what other people are even seeing. I even say that to some people. It's like, okay, there's going to be plenty of stuff you won't ever understand the appeal of, but it doesn't hurt to just figure out, you know, what makes the world tick once in a while. It's like, okay, so you don't like it, but you can at least see why this got some kind of award attention or was just highly ranked by a lot of people. It's just poetic to them. It's visual poetry.
I'd like to see like Leica Studios produce more stuff. I mean,
Leica Studios.
it's
what
more
have they
stop
done?
motion, right? They're like Coraline and
Oh,
right,
okay.
like Kubo, right, and the
Yeah.
2 strings, and it's stop motion, but you know, seeing them tell more of those kind of Pixar.
Hell, I
home
miss
kind
the
of
days
stories.
of Rankin Bass.
Yeah, exactly. Like just something, or it'd be nice to see Leica even do more instead of CGI, have them do more like sci-fi effects. You know, I'd like to see, you know, Leica produce, you know, a monster for an otherwise live action film. That would be cool, kind of the Harryhausen style.
Now I'm with you on that. Yeah, even do, I don't know, just kind of, it doesn't, nowadays everyone kind of just thinks of Robot Chicken, but it's like you could honestly do all sorts of comedy with stop motion.
Yeah. Now imagine if you did a movie that like okay, like you mentioned Leica, but with a little bit of CG in the vein of like Into the Spider-Verse. Because
Okay.
Into the Spider-Verse kind of mixed media a little bit and stuff like
really
that. So you
did.
kind of have stop motion, but then you also have fucking I don't know if we're allowed to curse on the podcast.
Yes,
If you're
you
allowed-
fucking are.
You
Oh,
can
okay.
fucking do whatever you want. Come on, dude. You
Yes,
remember last episode?
I don't know if it's a different episode, a different show or whatever, but yeah, but you know some mind blowing CGI along with the stop motion, and you know, like you make this like just mixed mashed masterpiece of, you know, just ridiculous, you know, and then of course, you know, this use the CGI to enhance the stop motion, because there's the love in the craft of stop motion, but they use the CGI to kind of, you know,
Or hell, just use it for the effects you don't want to animate instead of just pick one or the other. It's like every animation style can be done well. It's just a lot of people like to rush the process, and so
well, I
I
think
mean-
even like the Lego movies are all technically CGI, even though it
oh, absolutely.
mocks the stop motion format.
Right. And then I mean it gets even more complicated when you got what's the one that came out? I mean, look at Sonic. I mean, that was another one which is like everyone thought it was doomed to fail, and it's like, well, someone finally knocked some sense, and it's like I was very pleasantly surprised by it. It's like technically the last movie I've actually seen, and it's like, and I saw it at a drive-in theater. So it was one of those where it's just like every movie can work if you just put more time to it. And it's like then people are trying to look and find places where the animation doesn't work. I'm like, you guys have too much time on your hands. I at least had a story that I could wrap my mind around without it hurting, and
Okay.
the animation, I don't see the famous voice actor in the booth this time, you know, because It's the right kind of uncanny casting that works for that kind of character. So
Okay, a Lego Transformers movie
That would be pretty badass.
made by Leica Studios with actual stop motion.
A Hasbro character made a cameo in Lego Movie
To
2.
animate every single brick that's gonna transform. Oh my god.
Man,
They can do it.
Passion. Oh no,
They can do
absolutely. Yeah.
animators got plenty of time on their hands.
Exactly.
But a Lego Transformers, I mean, the same way, like, okay, they had the Lego movie and they had the Batman movie, and of course, Lego makes some, great video game. I mean, of course, this is a lot of it's cut and paste, but they're very fun and very family friendly and stuff like that. But yeah, a Lego Transformers movie, I think that would be pretty badass.
I think the world is ready for it. Did you guys have Transformers toys at all growing up?
Now that I think about it,
I didn't. I had a few G.I. Joes,
but now that I think about it, when I've seen Transformers in the store that were in the brick form, it wasn't Lego though. I think it was like Mega Blocks.
I haven't seen Mega Blocks, which was always a
Mega
knockoff,
Blocks,
but
Mega Blocks could come after Lego, like with their own movie.
There you go. Zoids was a knockoff of Transformers, totally. It's like, and then you had wasn't there some Transformers Hot Wheels? I think there had to be somewhere.
Had to be.
And
I hope it wouldn't be Matchbox.
I don't think it got that far, but I can totally understand the concern where it's like, yeah, no.
Okay, after a quick search, I'm sorry, the company's called Creo,
Creo, that's
K-R-E-O, and they seem to have all the licensed Transformers stuff, especially since like the 2007 movies. So, but I mean, yeah, imagine they want to take on Lego. Like, screw you, we're gonna do our own.
There you go.
3D.
The Creo movie. The Creo Transformers movie featuring Mega Blocks.
Creo, a Transformers story.
I was never able to figure out the actual Transformer toys. They were very difficult to me. Even as an adult, I tried to do one a few years ago. I got one of them around like Age of Extinction. They're hard, especially some of the more complicated ones. I can't remember which one. I got Grimlock. I remember after the Age of Extinction movie, and he took like 50 different changes to go back and forth, and I would always get stuck on one, like looking at the picture and like, what is this supposed to do? So I was never good at figuring them out. I wasn't good at figuring out the Power Ranger Zords that morphed from, Dragon into Zord either.
Did you ever guffaw when you see one of those certain workout plans and they say transform your body? Did you ever just get random unrelated Transformer imagery inside of those fitness ads?
I will now.
I'm gonna become a giant Autobot if I work out in 5 days.
No, I want to be a Decepticon.
You want to watch the world burn?
Become an Autobot and stab a friend in the back.
Hey, it's my birthday.
Exactly.
Oh,
But
God.
I mean, now, of course, once again, I guess speaking as the elder statesman here, like I remember the toys. I mean, some of the toys were very simple, but like the smaller ones, like the Bumblebees and the Cliff Jumpers and stuff like that, where like literally it was like the car's body was under the car, and you like pulled out the back section, which turned out to be its legs, folded the arms forward, and that was it. You just stood it up. A lot of the simpler or mini bots or mini cons or whatever you want to call them had that design, but I maybe, and also because with my just being a nerd, I loved figuring out transforming, when we had the bigger ones, when I had like
it's like a puzzle piece, except it has an ending way more clearly inside. You want to actually solve it. You actually do want to.
Yeah, because I'm trying. Oh my goodness, I forgot. It was the fire truck. And,
fire truck. We're using safe curse words here.
It was the fire truck, and that one was a pain in the ass, But I.
But it might be Inferno.
Inferno. Yes. I'm right. I should have.
Over there, Inferno.
I'm ashamed that I didn't know that off the top of my head. But yeah, Inferno. My brother had Omega Supreme, which was like, when it was all put together, like, it was like a train. It was like a tank that went around a track with a little rocket ship.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah,
That
that was. I
sounds
mean,
very
that was
Christmas
Christmas, yeah.
You think he had enough boosters in like their feet or whatever, but no, I need that giant extra rocket just for that extra boost.
Yeah. And it's like,
Or
oh,
is
great,
he
like he
using
sends
jetpack?
he'll send a rocket to another planet, but now he can't transform because those are his hands.
Right.
Like,
I
I
left
can go
him,
back to robot form, but I can't do any damn thing.
I left him there in that other part of the universe. I'm sorry. I'm not going all the way back there.
They're on Saturn right now. They'll be back in about 3 to 6 weeks.
Right. And now it's becoming like Dragon Ball Z. Find out on the next episode.
But I kind of, I took pride in like trying to transform my Transformers without the instructions when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
no way. Not a
that was
chance.
sort of...
I couldn't do it with the instructions.
Right? It was like something from IKEA.
Like
Oh,
I got it like 44 steps in, and then got stuck, and it's like I'm not going 44 steps back to put him back into a dinosaur.
No.
And then you end up breaking it. I just broke his shoulder. Damn. Like the first and the funny thing is that when he did get it out the box, it was a little stiffer than usual. You hadn't worn the joints down, so like you might actually break. Like you might apply a bit too much pressure and him break Inferno's shoulder.
Oh man.
He ain't saving anybody's life today.
Nice.
Little Timmy dies in a fire because
Little Timmy.
Inferno had no.
Timmy's not in the well anymore. He's in a Transformer well.
Now, did you guys ever see? It was the Kevin Smith, the Kevin Smith Clerks cartoon.
Yeah.
Only parts of it, but yeah.
And
It's one of
there's an episode where they do a quick joke about the Transformers, and the guy gets inside the Transformer, and then it transforms from car to robot mode, and then you just see blood coming out of its chest because like the person inside got crushed.
Oh, perfect.
And it's like it always, that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Michael Bay saw that episode.
Yeah. The Clerks animated series is just probably the best thing Kevin Smith ever did.
Oh, okay. So let me guess.
Just like Rob is on the Michael Bay defending train, and Chris is on the.
Are we gonna talk Revelations or what now?
I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Kevin Smith. He does lots and lots of great stuff. It's just that the Clerks animated series is better than all of it.
Oh, okay. Okay. It sounded like
I
you're
thought
like.
since we're like an 80s kick,
Everything else.
Revelations
is
the fucking shit I've ever seen.
The second episode is a clip show. The second episode's a clip show where they clip back to everything that happened in the first episode. It's genius.
Yes, it is. Didn't Alec Baldwin appear in one episode? He would have been a great Transformer.
He was the mayor of the town, Leonardo.
Yeah, Leonardo.
Yeah.
With how much shit he talks both on and off screen, he would be a perfect Transformer.
Yeah, he would be a good Transformer.
They should.
And that's what's cool about some of those later movies, right? They start to get more big name talent to be some of even the tertiary ones, right? They got John Goodman to be
That was
a Hound, if I'm not mistaken.
Hound, yeah.
It even made it like his figure, so that was even more genius.
Yeah, and when they brought in Leonard Nimoy,
Nimoy and Orson Welles would have actually been a pretty cool. If he had played a Touch of Evil type businessman in some Transformers cartoon, that would also be a fun.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually liked Transformers or he just liked a paycheck. I'm not sure.
He needed some money because he was.
I don't think he knew what. I don't think he knew what a Transformer was. Like I think they're like, hey, do you want to get X amount of money for doing half an hour in a vocal studio?
Yeah, they didn't have the electronic Transformer gadget back then, so I don't think he would ever know what that is. Chris
I choose to believe he liked Transformers.
My kids like it. They don't
Director of Citizen Kane. Oh no! I
This
broke
is
the
so
arm of my Inferno doll.
There you go. If Orson Welles had any grandkids, he's like, they like Transformers. They don't like Citizen Kane. They told me it's a boring movie, so I've disowned them. So, Chris, who are your other favorite like voice actors from that franchise? Like, I mean, obviously we've already talked a bunch about Peter Colon, who's, believe it or not, he actually respects Michael Bay even more because his son is a stuntman who actually performed in those movies.
Oh,
So-
okay. I mean, of course, Frank Welker as
Uh-huh.
Megatron, because Frank Welker is like, he's royalty. Like Frank Welker, I mean, this is one of those guys. I mean, literally thousands of voices
Literally.
over his career. And when you think of that time, I mean, are we talking in general or just like,
Yeah,
or
just in general, like people have always been associated with the franchise. Like we talked about Tony Todd earlier, who was both in Prime and the Fallen movie, and just
Yeah.
Good.
Scatman Crothers is Jazz.
good
And
others. Stephen Bloom and Mark Hamill, I noticed, have been in all sorts of the various cartoons of different tones and generations. So it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, it does have a certain kind of appeal. And
yeah, and then Dan Gilvizian, who was the voice of Bumblebee, which for me was like he was also the voice of Spider-Man from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends,
oh, okay.
and it was just like and he was the voice of Ray on the real Ghostbusters. And the funny thing is that, and don't be wrong, I love him and he's he did the same damn voice. it's like his voice.
Copy and
But
paste.
Ray is Bumblebee is Spider-Man from Spider-Man is Amazing Friends.
Always take that director credit with a grain of salt. It's like, direct what? Needs 5 more frames extra of action.
Yeah, we mentioned him earlier, but Eric Idle.
Oh yeah, in the
great
movie.
In the movie.
We
And
told
see-
you how you had the bootleg version of the movie for the longest time on like beta.
Yeah, I mean, I had the bootleg VHS. Like that was like I'm from New York City, so back in the day you could buy VHS tapes on the street. A guy like with a carpet or whatever with his movies. So I had the bootleg VHS, then the legit VHS that I bought at a HMV. I don't know if the guys are familiar with that store. Then
Music video. I don't know what that is.
it was like the RCA Run store, because remember how RCA, the logo for RCA was the dog
MCA.
look-
It's probably-
RCA.
Oh, it was
RCA.
ours.
You know how it's the dog looking at the phonograph?
Oh, okay, shit.
And so HMV stands for His Master's Voice, because the old ad campaign was that the fidelity of the recording is so good that the dog thinks that he can hear his master's voice on the recording of the album. I'm such a nerd that I know this shit.
That's fine. My dad randomly sang me the theme song for Libby's because he saw I had some green peas out. the other day. It's like there's certain things that just get you because those ads were just, again, they ignited you on TV because they had that catch you at nature before it just seemed like everything had to just be random or just WTF Super Bowl worthy.
And, but yeah,
yeah.
then I had the DV, and I swear, my hand on a stack of Bibles. My brother sent me today. My brother sent me the 35th anniversary 4K UHD, which I was going to buy for myself because my birthday's passed a couple months ago. But I'll put my hand on a stack of Bibles that literally today from Amazon, my brother sent me the 35-year anniversary edition of the movie. Now I don't even have like a player that's that good. Like I watch my Blu-rays on my PlayStation 4.
Even
So
better. I got my
yeah.
PS3 still. So.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, but I mean, at least when I upgrade I guess I will eventually get an upgrade. When I got my PS5, I guess I'll have the 4K edition. But like I remember watching it with like tracking lines.
Yeah.
But it's one of those deals where like I've seen the '86 movie so many times that like, okay, so you have the music
Top
playing
10
in the
movies of
background.
Timeless coming soon.
Like-
For those who have
like-
listened.
Like you'll have the soundtrack in the background, but then there's also like dialogue while the music's playing. So I certainly have the soundtrack, like I'll listen to the soundtrack in my car or whatever, off Spotify, where like I will speak the dialogue that's going on during that scene, during the music that's playing. Like instruments of destruction. Like yeah, And so
Oh, God.
and of course, I mean, the band Cybertronic Spree.
Cover band for those who don't know.
Yeah, the cover band that dresses up like Transformers and stuff like that. Last year, and I think this year they put it out on vinyl, but last year they put out the whole 1986 soundtrack out on they put it out on CD, and so of course I ordered it, and it's like, and of course obviously it's not a perfect translation, but I mean it's I still get chills listening to it, and it's
I even asked my aunt after we were done with that initial recording, have you heard of Polytronic Spree? She's like, I think I saw them at a convention.
Oh yeah,
like, wouldn't doubt it. I'm sure they're performing there.
And for anybody, please, if you haven't, if that doesn't, any of this doesn't sound familiar to you, just go on YouTube and look up Cybertronic Spree. They put out like one song. I mean, they do covers of other stuff, and they've done like Barracuda by
But
heart.
there's just that they're dressed, so it's a mixture of both cover band and cosplay. It's like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's good. Like, I mean, I hate to, and it's good too, but I mean, they get it down. For you to perform these songs and to hit those high notes, instruments of destruction. That's a hard note to hit. And the girl who plays
many
RC,
notes.
You just did it.
Yeah, but he's awesome, and
it's RC. RC does like hits those high notes and stuff. The girls, the one that there's the sing, RC and Hot Rod are the main singers, and and it's pretty cool. And like I said, if you haven't, if you're a Transformers fan and for whatever reason you haven't heard of Cybertronic Spree, go on YouTube right now and check them out, because
let alone the fact that their name is totally a parody of Polytronic Spree.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it's great.
I want to see them live. I was supposed to see them live. Well, they were scheduled to do a show in New York City last year in June, before all hell broke loose, and I think they have a tour going on right now.
They have a digital tour I saw last.
Yeah. And I but I want to see them live. I want to, I want the experience. But they were touring last year with MC Chris, and I'm not the biggest MC Chris fan, but that would have been a fun show. The funny thing is, I'm the kind of person, like, when it comes to like Pixar and stuff like that, I get upset like when DreamWorks, like, when they did like Kung Fu Panda, like, I don't care that.
Exactly.
I don't care Angelina Jolie's doing the voice of a snake. I don't care that, I like Seth Rogen.
The tiger, and I understood
the tiger,
why they did that, but it just felt like, again, it's like that was another franchise that could have been bigger, and instead it was just like, if you're past the age of 6, you're going to get bored because it just reminds you of, well, it doesn't have it down where, again, Toy Story, you can get lost in the voices, and because the title story is very fascinating, and it's like, but there is like, that's where DreamWorks kind of went wrong. Is like, other than Madagascar, it just seemed like after a while, it's like, guess who the voice actor is this time around? It's like,
yeah,
but
that doesn't impress me.
Well, and that's it. It just unless you're the investor involved with the movie, hoping they get their money back, it really, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even my Spectrum Internet is pretty bad at even telling you what any animated movie that's currently playing on any of the channels is about. All it will tell you is just literally the first 5 voices, and I'm like, oh, everybody's getting fucking paid today. It's like, damn, it must be so easy for anyone to start up an animation company. I thought it'd be more expensive, but apparently the demand is there, because I haven't heard of any of these companies, and they all look like Over the Hedge or Bugs Life knockoffs. And I'm like, Jesus.
Oh. Yeah, they're or another Dr. Seuss movie. Something in the Dr. Seuss universe.
Something. Well, or we're gonna try out motion capture, because that's never been done before. That reminds me what ILM definitely has some of their best visual effects with these movies, and definitely the animation companies, I mean, made their careers off of the Transformers franchises, but I mean, cartoons. But it's like, that was my other issue when ILM was doing the World of Warcraft movie. They're like, it's never been done before. I'm like, yes, it has. Weta Digital beat you to it by doing iRobot and Lord of the Rings. What are you talking about? So I feel like a lot of people, they they so easily start up the rivalries because it just boosts their ego without actually, seeing all the other movies and just admitting, yeah, okay, we didn't make the better movie. It's like you need to stop stealing each other's business and just try out something just random in your garage and see if it sticks.
Yeah, and well, speaking of, can I throw in
Please.
a blatant or a plug for
Blatant.
my
Two strangers, one podcast.
Yeah, well, Two Strangers One Podcast is my podcast, and over the quarantine, I was being stuck at home without a job and stuff like that. I had worked. I had a script that a friend and I worked on for a cartoon that we were, in a perfect world will be made, and it's called the Veil Corp, VEIL Corp as in corporation.
It's a good rough draft. Yeah.
And and so if you want to help me boost those numbers up on my YouTube page, if you could look it up, it is a pilot for a cartoon. I guess I would call it Rick and Morty meets The Office, sort of a cartoon. The animation's very, very janky. I made it in a program called Hit Film. So it's not traditional animation. It looks more like I guess what people would
Hit
remember
Film
like
is such an
Flash.
underrated editing software.
Oh yeah, I love Hit Film. If you think of like early 2000s Flash animation, or like I always tell people, like if you remember the video game Parappa the Rapper, it's sort of that style of animation. Flat characters but in a 3D background. And I have one of the voices is a guy, and it's a friend of mine who works out in he is a teacher at the Second City Improv in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so he teaches people in Second City. 2 or 3 of the people are friends of mine. But there are some, it blows my mind how, for $700 and of course, your time and your passion, that you can get that out there. I know we kind of just joked about it. Like, of course, I could have outsourced it and actually got people with talent, but I did it myself. And I think I got the point across on what I wanted it to be. But we live in a world where if you have the passion and you have the time and you have the energy, and of course, I can't do every voice, and I'm not going to do like a Bob's Burgers and be like a guy who does female voices and stuff like that. But you can, and this, and I hired these people off of Fiverr.com. The Fiverr is a website, you can hire people for gigs and
for
stuff
voice
like that.
actors. Yeah.
And some of these people are so talented. I'm like this is you're above this work. You're above this project. But I mean,
voice actors will be very organized. They'll give you different types of tones. I've had some of them send me stuff which was in separate folders based on the notes I gave them. It's like, here's all the takes of this voice I did. 3 takes of even each line. It's like, they pride themselves
professional
on
ones,
giving you. They know it's a brand. The good ones, the ones that are, spoiled and just think, oh shit, I could do that. Everyone else is doing it. It's like, well, not really. You can't necessarily do it. It's like,
no, I got it.
you got to really dedicate days.
Oh yeah, no, it's like some of these people are so talented, and it was like I feel like a piece of shit like not getting it like off the ground because I'm like I want you in my project. It's like your work is so damn good.
You want this to be a recurring deal and everyone has fun. It's like, yeah, but it can happen. Anything can be noticed because that's what producers are doing. Just like they would go and scout out comedians at stand-up clubs, they're looking for just random people who have web series shows and saying, if I gave them, $20 million, could they do a better job? And we got to do whatever we can to keep us sane, and anything that's just flowing through our brains, just let's see it explode. It might actually go somewhere.
Yeah, I would like to say though that we don't do that kind of shameless self-promotion over on the Reels of Justice podcast. Over on the Reels of Justice podcast, we don't do shameless self-promotion like that at all. REELS But yeah, no, I've worked with voice actors. I haven't done anything animation, but I've done, comedies that were, radio plays,
Those
and
are-
and strictly sound based. You can find a few of them. I've done, like What About Blob is, a mashup of What About Bob and the Blob. Where Bill Murray's basically a space monster who eats people. I've used, all sorts of varying levels of experience in sound and voice actors. I know you're a Misty too, so I've used, we've had Frank and Trace and in to do sketches and voices stuff, and they can do a lot of great voices too. Trace especially has a ton of great voices.
It's like, this is what they've been wanting to do for years, but just never did.
Yeah. So yeah, voice actors they're a totally different breed, right? But yeah, there's a wide world out there. Not everybody's Frank Welker and Don Messick, or Orson Welles. It's a talent, and you really have
on my
to.
deathbed, I leave you with the best movie of my career, Transformers the movie.
And you got, and then Raul Julia's last movie was the Street Fighter flick.
Oh yes, and he's the best part of that movie. So yeah, I mean, everyone has their trophies. Everyone has their sarcastic movies. I mean, if I go to a convention, I'm going to instantly ask that Jamie Lee Curtis sign a DVD version, a copy of Virus. I'm going to ask that Forrest Whitaker tell me stories about Battlefield Earth. I'm going to ask that. I'm going to always be the asshole who goes for their lowest rated movie on every movie site that everyone was drinking too much. It'd be funny if they did like just cult movie panels. Like there has to be some other market for that. Could someone do a panel of Jim Cotta? Or better yet, Ballistic Eyes vs. Ever, just do some kind of other weird, or Highlander 2, just have everyone just come out here with the scripts and ask just a what the fuck kind of level of Q&A.
I think that those are exactly the kind of films that are making the convention rounds.
They are, like, but they're kind of just restricting it to screenings or how did this get made type live recordings that audiences attend. Is like, I think they need to step it up a bit. They need to literally try and reunite everybody instead of just having it be a Shout Factory special feature. It's like, we're here for one night.
If the check's
only.
clear, they'll get the people.
They will, but unfortunately there are some who's like, yeah, no, not happening. Oh, I've been fortunate enough to talk to some of these filmmakers of those movies, and I mean, they're always the nicest people who later went on to do better stuff, but it's like they always got that one which is like either broke their career or made them have to try harder to get work. Or it was just the right, wrong kind of
like doing projects like the Veil Corp, like, that'll be my, that's my, people are like, oh, did you know he did a animated thing back when he was before he made such and such, he was known for this, he made this, and sort of, there'll be one of those things like, did you ever see it? I think it was a link to it on YouTube. It's not even there anymore, but they're having a midnight showing of it.
He used to have a GeoCities for it. Yeah, I wish you all the best on those. Any additional voices? I'm here. I'll say whatever you want. I don't care.
Oh God, and they have that's a whole other thing of like voices for
won't
like
you say
for hentai and stuff like that.
He's really into hentai. In a world where
I'm your
hentai
vocal
doesn't
slut.
make him ejaculate.
Somebody's got to make all those all the hentai. Somebody's got to do it, and I follow them on I for some reason I find them on Twitter, and I come to my and it's like there's whole scenarios like where like the big thing what they do with that is that there's these vocal actresses that will do animated sex scenes, but it's sort of like I'm Ahsoka from Clone Wars, and and like, oh, and oh, take off your Jedi robes and and then it gets like all
lightsaber.
yeah, let me check out your lightsaber.
And that's what the other.
And where is this stuff? Where can I find this stuff? Do you have a specific keyword search or?
It just got a DMCA claim. I don't
Look up
think
these local sluts, and then my favorite one is a girl named I'll tell you what it is. One is her name is Miss Moonified, MISSMOONI. And so she and it's for the you go and you she has like her own like page where like you download like audio clips for like $4 or $5 or whatever, and so it's like an audio porn for the lack of a better term, but like she does them like in these characters, you know what I'm saying, like you want to yeah,
that's awesome.
you want to have her hear a scene between it's you and Bulma from Dragon Ball Z or whatever. So
well, that's just it. Tom Kenny said years ago, it was like, this is the best thing about being a voice actor. You don't have to be restricted or even judged on what you're voicing, like unless you actually watch it. And if you're good enough at disguising even your voice, people often just don't even connect to that. It's like, wait, the guy who's basically the rapist samurai in this anime is the voice of the kids cartoon, talk show. It's like, jeez.
Well, yeah, and it's like all the people who did like Drawn Together. That was those horrendous, horrible things on that show. But they're also all people who did like Tiny Toons and
yeah, they've been doing it for years.
Animaniacs. It's all the same people.
They should do that voice actor who was in that thing. Because I know they did the other documentary. I know that voice, but I mean, they could expand on it a little more. People who have been in every part of the industry, especially as a voice actor. Anyway, yeah, no,
I need Peter Cullen to do a sex scene. How much would it cost?
The cocks roll out.
Along my transmission.
We got to now you're sounding like you're doing just bad CSI line readings. We got to examine a problem.
Put it in my tailpipe.
Roll in. Oh.
How dare I sully the name of Peter Cullen?
Thank you ever so much. It was delightful. I think we really picked a significant part of pop culture that even people who aren't even the biggest fans don't even realize how big a part of this life it is.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where like I think I was ground zero. In 1984 I was 7 years old. I was. It was drilled right into my head. It was, for me, Transformers was, because I hate it when people say Saturday morning cartoons when they refer to those cartoons, because my Saturday morning cartoons were different. To me, Transformers was always an after school cartoon. It was always on around 3:30, 4 o'clock, along with, of course, the other obvious.
That's just it. How times have changed even before social media. Everyone just seems to think, Saturday is only in the morning. Then you go outside and play. I'm like, I don't even know anyone who plays anymore. Kids are too busy, getting fat and Snapchat.
Yeah. all the usual suspects. The GI Joes and the Thundercats and the Masks and all those other stuff. For me, those were after school cartoons. And yes, they sold the brand. I was right in the demographic. I begged my parents for Transformers. And I think I might have mentioned this the last time I recorded. A unique situation for me is I lived right off the edge of Chinatown in New York City. And, in Chinatown, you can get bootleg Transformers.
It's where you got it, yeah.
Yeah, so my dad,
I think you mean Transmorphers.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Let's hope it's not Asylum knockoffs of.
But I'm saying is, my dad knew that I liked those robots that transformed into. So, those were not significantly cheaper, but my father was a little more prone to go to the places in Chinatown to get like the bootleg Transform. Like, didn't even come in a decorated box. It like literally came like in a brown box with like just like the plastic thing that the toy came in. Like, it was like that was the only thing that was shaped like it. But they all used like the same generic like brown box. And so and I was lucky enough to, and of course, don't be wrong. Christmas and my birthday, I'd got like the legit Transformers. So
Christmas.
and when I'm 9 years old and I'm watching Optimus Prime die, that was, that was traumatic. That was, I've been to family members' funerals that I didn't cry at.
Oh, so
And
there's
yet,
a final question for you. Is that the best death scene ever?
I mean, for a
animated.
9-year-old, I mean, when you're telling them that there's mortality and a person you looked up to is
They're gonna do this in part 2 in live action 20 years from now.
yeah. And it shook my world. I cried. I cried like I lost somebody. Because it was, and as times went on, like I said, I kind of watched Beast Wars. I was born right into it. Like you merely adopted the dog. I was born into it. I watched the Primes. I mean, I don't think I've ever watched Rescue Bots, but
Rescue Bots.
I went to the movies. I went back to every movie, every Michael Bay movie with Money in Hand and the Bumblebee, and I look forward to whatever they do now after this. They have a consumer for life, and
Michael Bay owns the Purge franchise. Maybe you could cross it over with that.
but and my thing is that Transformers. It's a commercial to sell toys. Yes, it is. That's a very cynical. For some people, that was their childhood. I'm saying. There's very much a trope of like an Optimus Prime and a trope of a Megatron being like the ultimate evil. But then when you take the storylines where they were friends at one point, or they were at least allies at one point. Then you take the trope of like a Starscream, a backstabber who's always trying to, he's always trying, given at the slightest chance will stab his master in the back or whatever, stuff like that. That's Shakespearean. I mean, I hate to don't want to sell it, but tropes like that, and the fact that these are like, the Autobots are benevolent robots and they're there to help mankind, and they're here to protect the earth and stuff like that. And I mean, I know it sounds corny, but there's a certain purity to
It's
all
our
of that.
kind of cheese.
Yeah,
I'd say a
justice.
purity. I don't know about Shakespeare, but there's certainly a.
Oh, see, the thing is, everything. It doesn't have to be on Shakespeare's level, but almost everything is like inspired by Lady Macbeth, Hamlet.
But you always got like this conniving like second in command who will do anything to like be in charge, and there's something I can see that in a Shakespeare play.
Well, yeah, but I mean it also goes back further than that, obviously too.
Oh yeah,
remember, even Homeric tales and
even people
beyond.
Inspired by Julius Caesar, Oedipus Rex. There's always going to be moments like that when they're doing a disturbing subplot in a show nowadays. It's like, jeez. So what classic literature that you read in high school are you most inspired by? Is most like you, and how do you form it?
Then when the movie came in and introduced us to the concept of like a Unicron or a planet that eats planets, and once again I was 9, so I wasn't exactly I wasn't, as much as I liked comics, I didn't know about Galactus or anything like that. Like I didn't know about planet eaters and stuff like that. So for me that was a terrifying concept at 9 years old. A planet that's going to come eat our planet. That's it's terrifying. And that blocks out the sun when it shows up. That's terrifying.
And with the voice of Orson Welles, so it's believable he could eat the whole planet.
Yeah, Marvin the Martian. Yeah.
Where's the earth-shattering kaboom? But once again, maybe because I was the demographic, but there was a purity to it, and I still very much enjoy it. And what the current state of affairs is what's going on the Netflix shows, and once again, I wouldn't call him friend, but we are friendly acquaintances. George Kirstick, and I was lucky enough, I got a chance to interview him at Comic-Con, and we go and him and I we go back and forth on online and stuff like that. And if I ever have any questions, he'll pretty much answer any question that won't like violate his NDA. And so
like what are you involved with now? Next question. It's got to be.
He's been very open, and once he's a guy who cares for the series, and if you watch Netflix shows, you can tell that it's there. I mean, is it a little janky? Is it sort of retelling the story of stuff we kind of already know? Yeah, but like he's trying to get it to us. It's sort of like, let's exhaust these existing timelines. Let's exhaust these existing stories and points, what's the word? Tent poles. Let's exhaust all these tent poles so we can start telling our story.
There's nothing wrong with playing the greatest hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not this thing like, and it's not like let's get it out of the way, but of course people are going to want to, people are going to bring up the Beast Wars. People are going to bring up the Combiners and the Matrix of Leadership and all this other stuff. They're going to bring it up. Okay, and then so we could take it to, now we can do what we want to do. And the funny thing is, if you watch the cartoon, he's such a Dungeons and Dragons nerd that like the Allspark is a D20. If you watch the cartoon.
Shit.
And that's
ultimate maxing out your levels there.
And so, I enjoy, and I don't think anybody, of course, there was that controversy like when the Masters of the Universe Revelations came out, and like a week or two later,
everything has a controversy.
No, but I'm saying the new Transformers came out. I haven't seen one bad word about it online. I haven't seen one, it sucks. Or I mean, I know some people are complaining because, people that I'm friends with tend to be a little younger than me and grew up with the Beast Wars, didn't grow up with the G1, and grew up with. So right. I know there are people that are upset that they didn't use some of the voice actors or all, I don't know if they're all the voice actors.
I hate that too when they act like it must be bad because so and so didn't sign on. It's like I wasn't contacted about it, or no offense, but I don't want to do anything at that point in my career. And it's like, you can't just rely on actors to tell you what is or isn't. You got to judge the whole work by itself. It's like,
yeah.
So you haven't heard a bad word about it, except for these several bad words about it.
Oh.
Even if you hear a bad word about it, judge it for yourself, just to say you saw it instead of I always heard it sucked, or I always am in line with Rotten Tomatoes. It's like bullshit. Rotten Tomatoes is never consistent. There's going to be plenty of shit that gets 70 to 90% that you will be like, what the fuck? That movie was ass.
Yeah. And I look forward to the Beast Wars movie that they're eventually going to do.
Yeah.
And then you say Ron Perlman? Yep. I'm there. That's all you got. Yeah.
I'd see it. Totally. And with further ado, let us cut it out there. Thank you, gents.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up